Sometimes. It's the people with the least to give who give the most. In a small-town grocery store, tucked between a gas station and a pawn shop, a young cashier named Emily offered the kind of kindness that doesn't come with a price tag. Every day, she scanned groceries with a tired smile, gave coupons to struggling moms, and paid from her own pocket when someone was short. Most people barely noticed her, just another face behind the register. But one rainy Tuesday, someone noticed. A disheveled old man, smelling faintly of rain and loneliness, shuffled into her checkout line. His clothes were worn, his hands trembling, and his eyes. They told stories they couldn't say out loud. Most people ignored him. Some even whispered cruel things under their breath. But Emily didn't. She greeted him like family, offered him a warm muffin from her lunch bag, and took the time to ask if he was okay. That small act, it changed everything, because that old man wasn't who he seemed. And what Emily didn't know, couldn't possibly know, was that she just touched the heart of someone who had the power to change her life in a way no one ever had before. By the time the truth came out, the entire town would be stunned. And Emily? She'd never look at a grocery line the same way again. The early morning hum of freezers and fluorescent lights was oddly comforting to Emily Harper. The rhythmic beep of barcodes scanning, the soft crinkle of plastic bags, the quiet murmur of customers. It all filled the air like a gentle, predictable song. For Emily, that consistency was a kind of peace she hadn't known in years. At 24, she had been working at Bradford Market for nearly 3 years. Nestled in a forgotten pocket of northern Pennsylvania, the market served a quiet, working-class community. Most folks who came through the sliding doors bore their struggles in their posture. Life wasn't glamorous here. It was just real. Emily knew about struggle. She'd been taking care of her younger brother, Jamie, since their mother passed away unexpectedly 2 years ago. Their father had left when they were kids. No one had heard from him since. At just 22, Emily became both sister and parent. She worked the morning shifts at the grocery store, took community college classes at night, all because she was determined to build something better for her brother. Her kindness wasn't performative. It came from a deep well of understanding. She'd been the kid who had to count coins at checkout. She'd seen the way people avoided eye contact when they couldn't afford everything in their basket. So she made it her mission to be the smile someone remembered, the helping hand they didn't expect. She clipped extra coupons for struggling customers, slipped a granola bar into the bags of hungry kids when no one was looking, and on especially tough days. She'd even buy someone's milk or bread herself. She never wanted anyone to feel how she once did. Invisible, ashamed, hopeless. Her manager, Craig, was a gruff man who rarely acknowledged her efforts. "Keep your head down and scan," he'd mutter. But Emily didn't care about recognition. Her heart was stubborn that way, kind, even when it cost her. At night, she studied in the corner of their tiny apartment, helped Jamie with homework between her own essays. Had dreamed to become a social worker, someone who could truly make a difference. But between rent, groceries, and Jamie's asthma medication, most of her paycheck vanished before it even hit her account. Still, she kept showing up. Day after day, she greeted customers with sincerity, not because she had to, but because she believed everyone deserved to be seen, especially in a world that moved too fast and cared too little. Emily wasn't trying to be anyone's hero. She just didn't know. She already was. It was a gray Tuesday morning, the kind that felt too cold for spring and too wet for comfort. Emily had barely clocked in when the automatic doors hissed open and a man walked in who didn't belong. He was hunched slightly, dressed in mismatched layers that looked like they hadn't seen a washing machine in weeks. A threadbare beanie covered most of his gray hair. His shoes squished with every step soaked through from the rain. His presence sent a ripple through the store. Shoppers stiffened, A child pointed. Craig leaned out from the office, muttering, "Another vagrant." But Emily didn't see a vagrant. She saw tired eyes, worn hands, someone who had stories no one wanted to hear. He moved slowly, studying each aisle like it was a memory. Sometimes he picked up a can, held it for a moment, and placed it back with a sigh. He had new cart, new basket. He wasn't shopping. He was wandering. Eventually, he made his way to Emily's register, even though she had no line. "Morning," she said, voice warm. He nodded, didn't speak. His hands fumbled in the pockets of his oversized coat, producing a crumpled dollar bill, 3 nickels, and a faded paper coupon for coffee, the kind the store hadn't honored in years. Emily glanced at the items on the counter, a bruised banana, and a bottle of water. "That'll be $2.19, she said gently. The man looked down, embarrassed. I don't have." Emily smiled and slid her own debit card into the reader. "It's covered," she said softly. He blinked. "Why?" "Because it looks like you could use a good day," she said. Then, from under her counter, she reached into her lunch bag and pulled out a muffin wrapped in paper towel. "Blueberry. Baked it myself." He stared at her, stunned, into silence. She tucked the muffin into his bag, without another word. Craig, watching from a distance, grunted in disapproval, but said nothing. Emily had a way of doing the right thing, before anyone could tell her not to. The man shuffled away, holding his bag like it was something sacred. What Emily didn't know, what no one knew, was that the man's name was Daniel Rhodes. And he wasn't homeless. Not really. Daniel was the CEO of Rhodes Retail Group, the national corporation that had quietly acquired Bradford Market. He had come to this location in disguise, unannounced, to observe how the local stores operated from the ground level. And Emily? She had just passed a test. No one else even knew was being given. He came back the next day. Daniel returned the next day. This time, his coat was slightly cleaner, but his posture remained slouched, and his eyes held that same weathered exhaustion. Emily noticed him immediately. Most people in her life didn't show up 2 days in a row, unless they had to. "Back again?" she asked, smiling. He nodded. "Just passing through." That day, he tried to buy a small bag of rice and a can of soup. His coin still didn't add up. Emily didn't hesitate. "Rice and soup, comfort food combo," she said cheerfully, sliding her card again. He looked at her, voice cracking a little. "You don't have to keep doing that." "I know," she replied, "but sometimes kindness is like a boomerang. It comes back when you least expect it." That afternoon, Emily found herself covering a broken cart for a single mom with 3 kids, helping an elderly man carry groceries to his car. Her body was tired, but her heart was light. Daniel lingered near the exit that day, watching. He'd been visiting stores across the state, but none of the employees had treated him like she had. Most ignored him. Some were polite but rushed. A few were cold. But Emily? She saw him. The next day, he came again. This time, he didn't pretend to buy anything. Instead, he sat quietly on the bench near the bakery, sipping the coffee Emily had insisted he take. When her break came, she joined him. They talked just surface stuff at first. The weather, the price of eggs, local road construction. But then, Daniel asked, "Why are you so kind to people who can't give you anything back?" Emily paused. "Because I know what it's like to need help and not get it. Kindness saved me once. I try to pass that forward." Daniel tilted his head. "Did someone help you?" She hesitated, then nodded. "A teacher. In high school. He bought me lunch every day for a semester. When things were really bad at home, never told anyone. Said I'd pay it forward someday." Daniel stared at the floor. "Looks like you are." Emily smiled softly. "Just doing my part." What she didn't know was that Daniel had already made a phone call. The district manager, the store owner, Avon Corporate. Something big was coming. And Emily, kind, humble Emily, Had no idea. Over the next week, Daniel became a fixture at the store, always during Emily's shift, always on the same bench near the bakery, always leaving shortly after her break. Most of the employees dismissed him as a lonely drifter. Craig rolled his eyes whenever he saw him near the floral department. But Emily? She looked forward to those moments. Their conversations deepened. Emily told Daniel about her mom, how she'd passed too young, how she missed pancake Saturdays and late-night talks in the kitchen. She told him about her brother Jamie, how smart and gentle he was, and how she constantly worried about being enough for him. Danielle listened. Really listened. He never interrupted, never offered empty advice, just nodded, asked thoughtful questions, and sometimes gave her a rare, soft smile. One rainy morning, Emily opened up further. I used to dream of opening a youth center, she said. A safe place for kids like Jamie. Somewhere to get help with homework. Talk to someone who listens. She looked down. But now, I just want to keep the lights on. Dreams don't survive when you're one bad check away from eviction. Daniel's chest tightened. Emily wasn't asking for anything. That was the part that hurt the most. She didn't expect the world to do anything for her. What if someday you didn't have to choose? He asked. She smiled faintly. That'd be nice. But people like me don't get some days. We get through the week, and then we try again. Daniel was quiet. He'd met CEOs, lawyers, board members with glossier resume, but none had half the grit or heart that Emily had. She was a light in a world growing dimmer every day. And yet, behind her strength, he saw the weight she carried, the exhaustion, the fear, the quiet moments where she stared off, lost in thought, lost in pressure. Daniel knew he couldn't stay undercover much longer. Something had to be done. And soon, it all came to a head. On Friday, the store was understaffed. A rush of customers poured in just before lunch. Emily held down 2 registers, still trying to stay cheerful. Craig barked orders from the office doorway as Emily rang up an older woman's groceries. A teenage boy cut the line and slammed a pack of cigarettes on the counter. I'm in a hurry, he snapped. I'll be with you in just a moment, Emily said kindly. He rolled his eyes, muttered something under his breath. When it was finally his turn, Emily asked for his ID. He groaned, shoved a hand in his pocket, and pulled out an expired learner's permit. I can't sell these to you, she said calmly. What? Are you serious? I'm really sorry. The boy grabbed the pack and tried to walk off. Emily quickly reached over and took it back. Craig saw the commotion and stormed over. What's going on? He snapped. She's accusing me of stealing, the boy shouted. She grabbed me. I didn't touch him, Emily said, eyes wide. Craig cut her off. That's it. You're suspended. Clean out your drawer. What? She whispered. I didn't do anything wrong. You escalated a situation with a minor, Craig growled. We don't need lawsuits, Emily. The store fell quiet. Customers whispered. No one spoke up, except one man. Sitting quietly by the bakery, Daniel stood, slowly. His eyes, normally soft, were now cold, focused, authoritative. Craig sneered. You again? You don't even shop here. Stay out of this. Daniel ignored him, looked directly at Emily. Please, go take your break, he said gently. Something in his voice had changed. Emily blinked, stunned. She nodded and walked away. And that's when everything changed. 10 minutes later, the store's intercom crackled. Attention, all staff. Please report to the front for an important announcement. Emily returned from the break room and stopped in her tracks. There at Register 1 stood Daniel. But this time, he wasn't slouched. His coat was gone. He wore a crisp dress shirt. His hair was neatly combed. And beside him stood 2 men in suits holding clipboards. Craig's face turned a pale shade of gray. Daniel cleared his throat. His voice rang through the store. Steady, confident, and unmistakable. My name is Daniel Rhodes. I'm the CEO of Rhodes Retail Group, the parent company that recently acquired Bradford Market. A collective gasp rippled through the aisles. Murmurs spread like wildfire. Craig took a shaky step backward. For the past few weeks, Daniel continued, I've been visiting stores across the state, undercover, to observe how our staff treat customers and each other. He turned and looked directly at Emily. And I'm here today because of one cashier. Emily's eyes welled with tears. Her hand rose slowly to her mouth. This young woman, Daniel said, voice filled with quiet pride, paid for my groceries when I couldn't, shared her lunch, asked how I was, when no one else even made eye contact. She showed compassion, integrity, kindness, even when no one was watching, especially when no one was watching. The store fell silent. No one blinked. No one moved. Daniel turned to Craig. And as for the store manager, I witnessed firsthand how you berated your staff, ignored customers in need, and fostered a culture of fear. Effective immediately. You are relieved of your duties. Craig opened his mouth to argue, but the security guard beside him was already stepping forward. Without a word, Craig was escorted out. Daniel faced the rest of the staff. Starting today, this store will undergo major changes, not just in operations, but in culture. And the first change. He turned back to Emily. Emily Harper is being promoted to Community Outreach Coordinator, with a full scholarship to finish her degree in social work, paid in full by Rhodes Retail. The room erupted. Applause. Cheers. Tears. Emily stood, frozen hands to her face, eyes wide with disbelief. Daniel stepped forward, softly, sincerely. You changed my life, Emily. Now, let's see what happens when the world gets to see what you can really do. The following weeks felt like a dream Emily never dared to have. Her new role meant fewer hours behind the register and more time creating programs for the community. Food drives, homework clubs, meal vouchers. She even had her own office now, a small corner space near the back of the store, a desk, a plant, and a nameplate that read, Emily Harper, Community Outreach. Daniel visited often, now in suit and tie, but still the same quiet presence. They became unlikely partners in a shared mission to bring compassion back into business. Emily's ideas were bold, heartfelt, and Daniel, he made sure she had the resources to make them real. Meanwhile, her tuition paid in full. No more late-night shifts followed by essays. No more wondering if she could afford Jamie's medication. Her little brother even started visiting the store after school, beaming with pride every time he saw his sister walk the aisles as someone important. One afternoon, Emily sat at her desk, reviewing plans for a youth center partnership, the kind she used to only dream about, when Daniel knocked on her door. You really did it, he said softly. Emily looked up, eyes shining. No, we did. He smiled. No, Emily, you just needed someone to believe in you. I just finally saw what was already there. 6 months later, that once-forgotten grocery store had become the heart of the town. Families came not just to shop, but to connect. Donation boxes at every register. After-school snacks for kids. A monthly compassion discount day for struggling families. And at the center of it all was Emily. She finished her degree, became a full-time social worker, still partnered with the Rhodes Initiative. And that youth center she used to whisper about? Construction began that summer, funded by a donation, made in her mother's name. Craig, he moved on, replaced by a manager who believed in kindness as policy. Daniel, he kept visiting stores, quietly, anonymously, inspired by one young woman who looked past the rags, the disguise, the silence, and chose kindness anyway. So what's the moral? You never know who you're helping when you choose compassion. In a world that often rushes past, it's the smallest gestures. A muffin, a smile, a quiet, "How are you?" that carry the power to rewrite someone's story. Because true wealth, it isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in decency.